Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Wow, it's great to see you all in person. Welcome to the 2022 West Virginia Education Summit. My name's Amelia Quartz, and I'm president of the Education Alliance. The Alliance exists to mobilize business and community support for public education, and we're passionate about helping all West Virginia students be ready for success after graduation. I'd like to begin today with just recognizing some special guests and dignitaries. I know we had several legislators and Board of Education members, so I'd like to start out by just asking our elected officials to please stand and join me in recognizing elected officials. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here today. Next, we're excited to welcome some of our 2022 and 23 County Teachers of the Year. We're so honored that you could join us today. So if you are a County Teacher of the Year, please stand and be recognized. Any of them? Thank you. I see a couple. Wonderful. Also, I would like to recognize the Education Alliance Board of Directors. We have a fantastic board, and this program would not be possible without them. So if you're a board member of the Education Alliance, please stand to be recognized. Thank you. At this time, I would also like to recognize our sponsors. We really could not do today without their support. So first of all, I would like to recognize our platinum sponsor, AT&T. I know we have several folks from AT&T, so would you please stand? There they are, thank you. And also several bronze and friend sponsors. If you would please, when I call your name, just stand and remain standing, and we'll recognize them all at the end. So our bronze sponsors are Antero Resources, Appalachian Power, Bowles Rice, EQT, First Energy Foundation, Jackson Kelly, Toyota West Virginia, ZMM Architects, and our friend sponsors Marshall Health, United Bank, and West Virginia Development Office. Please join me in thanking all of our sponsors. The theme for today's summit is Pathways to the Future, Strategies to Grow Your Own. And it's really based around two key ideas. First of all, it's the idea that West Virginia can grow our own talent by starting younger, by providing quality experiences for our youth that are well supported and well paid, by eliminating barriers and by engaging partners. So we're going to hear more about that purpose today. The second key idea is that education and business are so incredibly important, and they are really both codependent. So we would like to explore how we can work together to develop and build out the teacher pipeline. We know that teaching is the profession on which all other professions depend. So that piece, and then also how educators can help build robust industry pathways. So those are the two key takeaways from today's summit, and we also want today to be interactive. If there's anything that we learned from COVID, it's that we don't need another sit and get conference, right? So we want today to be interactive and fun, and to help jumpstart the conversation, we have a short video for you.
kinds of different roles in this company. We have meteorologists that keep track of the weather for us. We have medical doctors. We have all kinds of PhD biologists, scientists, engineers. We have business people, you name it, we have it.
At our plant, team members work hand in hand with robots and other automated technology to drive Toyota quality and consistency.
Okay, so for our first audience engagement activity, I would like you to turn to those at your table, take a few moments and introduce yourself, and share one thing from the video that inspired you for today's summit. Let's take 5 minutes and have some table discussion. We really appreciate your participation. We'd like to ask you to continue the conversation online. You can see we have our hashtag, which is WVEdSummit. So if you would, please take out your phone and feel free to tweet or post about the summit, maybe some of the conversation that you shared from your table. You'd like to share that with others. And please do use our summit hashtag. So before we get started, I'd like to ask you to take out your program and let's just do a quick walkthrough to see how our agenda today explores the theme, Pathways to the Future, Strategies to Grow Your Own. First up, you'll see that we have our industry panel, and they are really experts across a variety of industries. They're going to set the stage for us today, sharing about some of their workforce needs, some of the innovative programming. We're also going to learn how the business community is championing the teacher pipeline and how teachers are working to build robust career pathways. Immediately following our industry panel, we're going to have a Meet the Panel activity. So stay tuned for that. I'll explain more about that in just a little bit. Next, we'll hear from our keynote speaker, David Donaldson from the Harvard Center for Grow Your Own. David's really going to share some of the national work that he's doing to ensure the future of teaching, and he'll be joined by Dr. Carla Warren from the West Virginia Department of Education in a fireside chat to showcase West Virginia's leading efforts in this initiative as well. During lunch, we will hear from our student expo, and I'm really excited. We have 6 awesome schools that have joined us today, and you'll get to meet them over lunch. And then immediately after lunch, we'll conclude with our policy and practice presenter, Dr. Russell Dyer. Dr. Dyer is going to share some of the policies that Tennessee has enacted and how he is helping implement those in his work as Director of Schools in Cleveland. Finally, we'll conclude the summit with one more opportunity for discussion around your personal action items from today's summit. All right, I think we are ready to begin. So throughout the summit, we have asked some of our students to introduce our speakers. So at this time, I'm going to ask Macy Boston to come and introduce our first speaker. Macy is a student at 100 High School. Please join me in welcoming Macy.
Hello, my name is Macy Boston from 100 High School. I'd like to introduce our moderator for the Industry Leader panel. In 2018, Mr. Graney was appointed to the post of Executive Director of the West Virginia Development Office by Governor Jim Justice. He earned his MBA from the University of Virginia Darden Graduate School of Business in 1990. Since then, he has spent much of his professional career in executive or co-founder positions with companies related to the petroleum industry. In those roles, he managed different facets of business, including acquisition, retail operations, and environmental compliance. From 1991 to 2015, he was president of One Stop, a chain of convenience stores based in West Virginia. He has been a member of numerous oil industry professional organizations and has also been active in many community and civic service groups. Please join me in welcoming Michael Graney.
Thanks, Macy. Good morning. Panelists, come on up here. I'm lonely. So, folks, this is a really exciting opportunity to share some thoughts with you. And, in my work in the West Virginia Development Office, creating career pathways for our young students and young people, really ensures that we'll have economic prosperity for many years to come. I'd like to share a few little thoughts about what's been happening here recently in West Virginia. In 2022, we've had over 22 economic development announcements. And a few of them are aspirational, and we weren't necessarily involved in the announcements, but most of them are for real. And it will create over $5 billion of investment, create over 5,000 jobs. And, just to name a few, Nucor, Green Power Motors, Omnis Building Technologies, Owens & Minor, Pure Watercraft, and there are more to come. I've got a few in my hip pocket, so to speak. But it's a really exciting time, and I don't think we've ever had a 10-month period where we've had 22 investments. Tony, what do you think? So it's good stuff, and as I said to the table I was with during our interaction, you always want to be good in business or good in your career, but it never hurts to be lucky. So I feel like I've come into this job at a very lucky time and have an incredible group of coworkers who are very passionate and do a great job for economic development in the state of West Virginia. But, I'd like the panelists to introduce themselves and share a little something about, one thing that you're excited about in West Virginia. But before that, I would just want to tell you this one story. So people will ask me how I'm doing in this job, and I'll say, I'm doing great. And I'm a little bit worried about talent in the workforce. So, I sleep like a baby. I wake up every 2 hours crying about that very topic. So it's true. I am very worried about this. But I think that we're actively approaching pathways to address this issue. And so I'm very pleased that this group is taking action. There are many other groups that are following along the same path. And I think we're collaborating, cooperating, and communicating. And that's why we're winning. So thank you all. Panelists, please introduce yourselves and tell us what you're excited about.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Stankus, and I'm honored to be serving as a newly appointed Deputy State Superintendent of Schools. Coming straight from the field, it's my pleasure to be here. With 32 years in education, I want to really, first of all, celebrate public schools and all that's happening in our public schools today. It's truly in that, thank you. It's truly in our small communities and local communities that great things are happening in those classrooms. So that's my first love. And I always, as a superintendent, I said to vendors, there are only 55 of us, so don't make any of us mad because we talk to each other. And it's a small state, and I love that. I love that about our state. You pass people on 79, and you wave at them that you see every day from different communities. So the promise of West Virginia is very strong. And we've seen that historically. Great people have come from this mountain state, and it will continue. I'm sure of that. I am sure that great people will continue to prosper and serve in this state and go other places and serve. But we're really proud of what's happening. One of the things that I really want to shout out is that West Virginia was actually the second state in the nation to register our K-12 teaching occupation as a registered apprenticeship program under the U.S. Department of Labor. And that truly, it's the work of Dr. Warren, she's led that work, that truly is going to open a lot of opportunities for all of us, not just in education, but in other apprenticeship and internship opportunities. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Aaron?
All right. Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Great.
All right, I like engagement and interacting, so I might have a quiz for you at the end similar to the video, so be ready for that. So my name is Aaron Walker. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of Appalachian Power. Similarly, I'm new in role. You might have actually saw in the video our previous president, so he's here with us in spirit, and he certainly wanted to express his appreciation for everything the Education Alliance does. So what am I most excited about? Prior to the intro, I was going to talk about economic development, and I still will, because I'm very excited about that. But I think really what spoke to me was just when we kicked off this session here, the recognition for our County Teachers of the Year. That just brings a smile to my face, given, you know, with our educators had the experience over the last couple of years. So just want to take a moment to say thank you for all the educators. I know I got a room full of them, but in particular, our County Teachers of the Year, thank you for all you do for our children and the residents of West Virginia. So outside of that, like I said, you didn't pay me, but I'm very, very excited about economic development in West Virginia. We continue to hear day after day new announcements and new opportunities of businesses that are relocating into the area or expanding their operations. And why that gets me excited is that's new opportunities for the residents of West Virginia. That's new pathways for the students of West Virginia. That just gets me really thrilled. It also means folks like me that weren't originally from the area get attracted, and we get to learn a little bit about the beauty that is West Virginia. So that's probably what's got me most excited. Shameless plug, Appalachian Power does a lot to promote economic development. It's good for our company, it's good for residents, so I think that's it.
Aaron, thank you very much. Abby?
Good morning, everybody. I am Abby Reel, the Director of Advocacy at Mountain Health Network, which includes Cabell Huntington Hospital, St. Mary's Medical Center, Pleasant Valley Hospital, which is new, and Huntington Internal Medicine Group. And we are an academic medical center and partner with Marshall Health and the School of Medicine, which is very exciting. And I think the most exciting thing for me as a lifelong West Virginian, especially from Huntington, is getting to see our new CEO, Dr. Kevin Yingling, and President Brad Smith and Buffy Hammers at Marshall Health be able to coordinate and work together to bring health care to rural West Virginia. We do represent a 30-county radius, not only West Virginia, but Kentucky and Ohio. We have over 900 physicians and staff, over 6,800 staff overall. Marshall has over 2,000 just at Marshall Health. We have over 259 residents and fellows that we're training every day, over 50 PAs and 95 medical students that we hope stay in West Virginia. We've been very successful through Marshall Health and the School of Medicine to attract and have over 79% of those students from West Virginia. And so it's very likely that if they do a residency here and they train here, especially in rural West Virginia, they stay in that community. So we've been very blessed to have the first surgery residency program in the country actually at Logan, and that's through our partnership with Marshall. So we're very excited for the future. We're excited to bring healthcare to West Virginians and even Ohio, Kentucky, and continue in that work and be able to coordinate with our education leaders to bring in those high school students in K through 12 into our programs. So excited to be here today and talk with you guys.
Abby, thank you.
Thank
Dave?
Yeah, excuse me. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name's Dave Rozier. I serve as the president of Toyota Motor Manufacturing in Buffalo, West Virginia. You know, just a little bit about myself. So I'm not originally born and raised here in West Virginia, but I have now lived or worked in the state for over 26 years. So I've crossed that point where over half my life I've been in the area, so I think that makes me from West Virginia now, right? I think that's the rule is once you've been there over half of your life, you got to. So proud to be from West Virginia. You know, our plant in Buffalo, again, we are a manufacturing plant for Toyota. We don't make the vehicles. So a lot of people, as soon as you hear Toyota, you think vehicle. We don't make the vehicles here in West Virginia. We're a powertrain plant, which means that we make engines and transmissions. Now, quite frankly, from our point of view, we think we're more important than vehicle plants anyway, because if it wasn't for us, that would just be a nice yard ornament that's sitting in your driveway, right? So we think we're a little more important than the vehicles. You know, we're a plant, we've got about 2,000 team members on site, plus, you know, you're somewhere in the ballpark of 400 or 500 additional contractors that are in and out of that plant every day. And we're really proud to be part of the West Virginia community, and we've been in the state now for 26 years, and so, it's really, it's been great to be part of that. And throughout my time in West Virginia, let me talk now about the one thing that excites me about the state. One, I am biased, and so I love the fact that we've got manufacturing investment coming into the state, which I think is really important. Not telling anything that our economic development director doesn't already know, but having diversity in your investment is really important. And having good manufacturing jobs is kind of core to a community, and having that. And so I love the fact that some of our most recent big announcements have been related to manufacturing. And quite frankly, one of the reasons why I love that is the diversity of the careers that are included in that. And even, right, AEP made that comment in the video. They talk about the diversity of careers. Automotive industry, we're the most highly regulated industry, in the country. But when you think about then the diversity of careers that are within that, it's really incredible. But I want to wrap up by saying just one thing, though. But it's beyond just the investment. There is a different buzz in this state than I've seen in the 26 years since I've been here. There is a different energy in the state right now, and I think coming out of the Capitol. And so that's fun to be around and be a part of. And so just glad to play our small part in that overall buzz that's happening in the state.
David, thank you. Appreciate that. So, education, power, medicine, and powertrains. Amelia, Sally, pretty nice job in lining up a great panelist group here. So, we've had a lot of positive momentum, but it doesn't mean we don't face challenges, right? We know those challenges. We've identified many of them, and I think we're addressing them. But one of the biggest challenges that we hear about, not just in West Virginia, not just nationally, but globally, is, the talent challenge. And literally, we hear about that every day from every one of our existing companies and everyone we're trying to recruit in here, and other folks who are in my role across the country, and really the world, are saying the same thing. So describe your company or your industry's workforce current needs, and any data or any stories that you want to share. And Sarah, let's start with you, and then just go down the line.
So, of course, we're the largest employer in the state of West Virginia, with 38,000 employees in public school systems across the state. And you think about 250,000 students and their families, the impact of that work in every community in our state. It's really something that all of us are thinking about. And thank you, Dr. Quartz, for acknowledging that education is the place that all other industry begins. We're teaching everyone in that classroom. And so what do we need? Our current needs, of course, we're looking for certified teachers right now. Our latest number was about 1,200 classrooms who have uncertified teachers in that classroom. But not only are we addressing that through programs like Grow Your Own, but we're looking for creative and innovative ways. This state superintendent, one of the things that he did, Superintendent Roach, when he came into office, the first thing he said is, I want an Office of Educational Innovation. And that's a place where we can try things, we can innovate, we can incubate these programs and see if they work on small scales, and give the superintendents in the counties that leeway and flexibility to try some different things on small scales and see if we could scale those out. So I'm really excited about that work. But also we need people like the cooks, the custodians, those support people, the secretaries, all of those service personnel. They're critical for schools. And in every county across the state, you'll probably see a bus with a banner on the side that says, we need bus drivers, right, Dr. Campbell? You have those in Mon County, too. We're doing things like paying people to become CDLs, certified drivers, and then paying them while they're being trained, giving them incentive pays. In Upshur County, we gave them $1,500 when they finished that program. But counties are doing those creative things to fill these high-need positions. And let's face it, we're all really vying for that same really incredible employee, someone who comes to work, someone who's drug-free, someone who's a critical thinker and problem solver. All of us want that employee. And so we're really excited about the things that we're doing as a state to develop those kind of programs.
Next up here, so we're going to keep with the interactive theme. Who's struggling to find all of the talented resources that they need right now? Pretty much everyone. I know some of you are shy, but it's pretty much everyone, right? It's no matter what store you walk into, what business you contact, we're all struggling for those resources. We're no different at APCO. You probably think of our line workers because that's kind of the most outwardly public-facing positions, and that's a huge challenge for us, right? Our line work, that is a difficult job. It's the worst of conditions, storms, hot weather, birthdays, holidays, doesn't take a break. It's a difficult job, and we have a tremendous shortfall in those resources. We've got an aging workforce in addition to all of the economic investments that are being made at a federal and at a state level to improve reliability and resiliency of our electrical infrastructure. So we've got this growing need to continue to design and build a new system in addition to an aging workforce. So huge challenge for us. But outside of that, we've got almost every other position that supports those line groups that we're desperately looking for quality resources for. The beauty of our company is typically those folks are employed in the areas that they live. Right? You can't be a line worker employed in Charleston if you're supporting Mingo County. Doesn't work. You'll be calling me when your power goes out because of how long it took. So inherently, those folks live where they work or work where they live. So again, in terms of all of the positions, we're looking for engineers, legal support, schedulers, project managers, learning coordinators to skill up all of these new resources that we're bringing to bear. Just for a frame of reference, year to date, we're at about 40% increase over our complete total last year's hires. And we're still struggling, right? We'll post a position. It may take us 2 or 3 months to fill that role. So I know it's a problem shared by many.
Thanks, Aaron. Abby?
Yeah, and I think you probably saw in the video, Cabell Huntington Hospital was on there, that we had over 2,000 people hired this year. You know, it's a great statistic, but we still have a lot of openings, you know, especially not only for nursing. Nursing is our top, LPNs, but pharm techs, surgical techs, sterile techs. And I'll get to talk more about what we're doing to try to fill those roles and grow our own internally and within the community. But really, we have over 100,000 of employees in the state of West Virginia are in the healthcare workforce, and 40,000 of those are within the hospitals. We are the #1 employer in our region. Pretty much every hospital that you see in your county or in the state is likely the #1 employer in that area. I would love for one day for us not to be the #1 employer. So that's my goal at the end of the day, hopefully. But, you know, we are, and so we are very much involved in the community. K through 12 is huge for us in getting that pipeline coming in. But it is a constant struggle, and it's, you know, nationwide. We're expecting to have over 230,000 nurses a year and over 160,000 physicians a year needed every year for the next decade. Over 35% of our nurses here in West Virginia, our RNs that are licensed through the state, are over the age of 51. That is a scary statistic for me. You know, I don't worry really about tomorrow. I worry about 5-10 years from now. So what we're doing here today and within this state and being able to see what we're able to do now is going to pay off dividends over the next 5 to 10 years. So it's I'm excited to see what we are doing here.
Thanks. Dave?
Okay, thanks. It looks like I ended up in the cleanup seat, right? So I got a bad cleanup every time. And so the pressure is always, well, can you come up with something that's different than what your other panelists already said? But, you know, really, when I think about this question, there's really 2 things that come to mind. And I started to answer some of this in my introduction, which is one of the things I love about manufacturing is the diversity of careers that we have within, you know, within our industry. You know, we range everything from human resources, accounting and finance, production planning. We have environmental We have facilities maintenance, we have production maintenance, we have production team members, we have RNs on staff, we have nurse practitioners on staff, right? I mean, I could go on and on. And I haven't even talked about the production team members that make up the bulk of, the team members that we have. So there is great diversity. And so, so we really are looking for kind of broad pipeline of new members that we can bring into our company. Now, when you think about that diversity of careers, you also have all different levels of education that prepare you for that. Now, I'll be quite honest, being in the manufacturing industry, one of the things we work pretty hard at is trying to kind of reduce the kind of stereotype that comes with manufacturing jobs. Or the image, when you say, right, when you hear, oh, it's a powertrain plant, I just wonder what image you have in your head. Because most likely, unless you've been in a manufacturing plant in the last, 10, 20 years, we're probably nothing like you think a manufacturing plant looks like. It is clean, it is high-tech, it is fast-moving, there is an energy that exists within manufacturing that's, I think, really unique, and that's what's had me in this industry for over 30 years. So that we continue to try and break down that stereotype because, quite frankly, there is a national need for STEM-related careers and people to enter into that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get into an engineering or a college degree program, right, to be developing the kind of skills that are needed to have really good careers. And so, honestly, that's one of the things that we work really hard at is making sure that we've got diversity in our pipeline and that we're looking for those kind of diverse skills that we can bring in. But the other thing, and it was mentioned a little bit by the other panelists, but, regardless of where our industry is going, regardless of our current needs, we are always going to need two fundamental skills that are always met, and that is the ability to work on teams and the ability to problem solve. So it doesn't matter, I don't think you could get into any one of the fields that we're sitting here. Those skills are just a requirement, and it doesn't matter what level you're at within the organization. Those are the skills we're looking for and expect. And so we're constantly trying to support how do we develop those skills in our through like our partnerships with Education Alliance and the schools in our neighboring counties, but also, even within the plant, it's never ending, but that's a fundamental skill, and we just got to keep developing that. So that's what we're looking for.
It's great, Dave. Thank you very much. So before I go to the next question, let me just tell you about a resource that the Development Office has created. We partnered with a company called JobCase almost 2 years ago, and we've developed a job platform, and it currently has over 900 employers in the state advertising over 20,000 jobs, and it's getting between 40 and 50,000 click-throughs a month. So we believe it's working. We're the only state in the country that's developed this platform. We found out about them a number of years ago, and they have about 120 million users worldwide. And they did an algorithmic search and determined that over 800,000 of their members had some affiliation with West Virginia. They grew up here, they went to school here, their grandparents are here, they have a relative here, something like that. And so we're using it for really three things. One, to keep our graduates here. Two, to recruit our expats. And three, to encourage remote workers to move here and set up shop, because we have been socially distancing since 1863, right? So why wouldn't we want to be here in West Virginia? But check it out, JobCase, WV, jobcase.com/WV. And if you're not using it, you should be. And Abby, to your point, of those 20,000 positions, the largest share are nurses. I mean, amazing. So, folks, great answers to an interesting question. Let's now look out 5 years. How do you see these workforce needs shifting in the next 5 years? And so, Dave, you're up.
I knew I was setting myself up for that once I made a comment. So in the automotive industry, quite frankly, we're going through kind of a once in 100-year transition or transformation. And our president, in Japan and at TMC, Akio Toyoda, he comes right out and says, we are transforming from an automotive business to a mobility company. Because quite frankly, the automotive industry is just changing that much, and what the consumer expects from that vehicle and their experience in that vehicle is changing. So we really are through a transformative period that we're trying to navigate through. Now, we don't have enough time to really talk about all the ways that our industry is changing. But there's probably a couple of things that I would hone in on. First is the change in powertrain to electrification, right? So all you see here in the media, even from DC when we think about greenhouse gas regulations, and it's this push towards battery electric vehicles. So the reality is what we make in West Virginia, because we are a powertrain facility, it has to change. We have to keep up with this electrification change that's taken place in our industry. So no longer will we be assembling engines and machining cranks and camshafts and blocks and heads, right? Now you're talking about electrified powertrains, which are primarily electric motors with stators, rotors, you've got gears, right? It's a whole different component that we have to be prepared to produce. And so there is just a basic fundamental shift that's taking place in the product that we have to produce. Now the good news is at West Virginia, we do make hybrid transaxles. So Toyota's globally famous for our hybrid transaxles. We're the first and only plant in North America to be producing hybrid transaxles. And so when you think about battery electric, really that transition's very common to a hybrid transaxle. So we have those core skills to be able to transition our plant, but it's going to require a significant retooling, and we've got a lot of work to do in order to meet this shift in our industry. So that's kind of the first issue. The second issue is really within the industry, manufacturing industry, it's referred to as Industry 4.0. So as we retool, as we bring in new equipment, the technology that comes with that new equipment and retooling is quite honestly very high. Again, if you haven't been in a manufacturing plant, it is extremely technical, right? It's not dark and dirty and backbreaking kind of work anymore. That's not the kind of work that we do. And so, with this shift to Industry 4.0, the amount of data that's available to you is incredible. And so not only data about the product and the performance of that product, but also the health and the condition of the equipment that you have to maintain in order to produce that product. Our challenge is, what do you do with the data? And how do you make that productive? And how do you get value from the data? Right? So you have to have methods and systems to pull the data, store the data, organize the data, visualize the data, and then make sense of it so that you can make good business decisions. That shift is coming, and we're trying to get ahead of it, and we've got programs that we're putting in place to try and support that. Quite frankly, I serve in a role to help support that transition for all Toyota plants in North America. So it's a shift that's coming, and so that kind of big data approach, that's something that we just didn't have as available to us in the past 20 years. But as we move towards modern agile manufacturing, it's a real need.
Fantastic. Abby?
Well, I didn't think about, manufacturers talking about data, and looking at those outcomes, because that's where healthcare is going. There's been, a lot of negative out of COVID, but I think a lot of positives out of COVID for the health industry. A lot of negative for us too. But the positive is that we're now moving a lot faster towards that data-driven health outcome. Social determinants of health is a new thing that's popped up in the last, especially 3 years, but now it's something that, we're moving towards even sooner and faster. Looking at the data of, how many nurses are you going to need on that floor, but also the hospital at home model. I mean, that's another thing that in the next 5 years, I think you're going to see more healthcare in the home. So you have community health workers through Marshall Health and their programming with Deb Keister. There's different programming that we're able to work with our partners at Marshall to be able to, kind of combat the social determinants of health, those outcomes, the data. Marshall Research, it does so much for us on that, and being able to use that data to be able to see 5 years from now what to expect, how can we help these patients in these, rural areas and different areas. Is transportation going to be an issue? Yes, it is. It is now. It will be over the next 5 years. So those are things that we're looking at in the next 5 years. Is it's not only healthcare workers that are bedside, but it's in the home. It's those social supports. And I will say for our employees, one of the things that we're looking at and our board has actually approved is childcare. We have a lot of employees that can't return today because of the childcare needs that we have, which is a good thing that we have births happening in the state. But that is something that, we're doing at St. Mary's and we'll be doing at Cabell where it's on campus. So it's things like that that we're looking at over the next 5 to 10 years is how can we keep our young people here? How can we recruit more people? How can we retain? How can we train? And really it's how can we start looking towards what our regulations are, but also what those quality metrics are looking like. So data, it's kind of funny to hear that. So, but it's happening in our industry as well.
If it makes you feel any better, we're approaching the daycare issue also.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Great, Abby. Aaron?
All right, so I get to do a little bit of cleanup here, but appropriately so. All the amazing things they talked about, I take pride in knowing we enable that. All right, so that transition over to electric vehicles, we enable that.
You're welcome.
The data, reliance on data and telehealth, we enable that. So what that means for us is there's a higher expectation around reliability. There's a complete fundamental shift in how we go about designing and installing power lines now. Previously, right, no different than you go home, you open your sink, water flows one way, you never ever plan on pushing water back up to your kitchen sink, right? We designed the power system originally with the same concept, one-way flow. With the technologies we're talking about now, that requires a whole new shift. That's two-way flow of electricity and data. That's huge for us, and again, that's part of the driver for that significant amount of resources we need to help us install and design those systems. To kind of quantify that a bit, the last projection I saw, there was a forecast of 23,500 new line workers will be required annually for the next decade.
Wow.
I can't find 23,500. I don't know 23,500 people, so that's going to be a challenge for us. But that's the kind of things that are driving a shift in our industry. And I've been talking a lot about the line side, but in addition to just the electric infrastructure, the generation mix is changing. No, that's a controversial topic. Historically, the bulk of our power has been produced through fossil fuels. A lot of our customers are demanding solar, wind, nuclear. So all that's back on the table again, which again is a fundamental shift for at least our company to make sure that we can provide the things that our customers are asking for. With that comes, again, a whole new skill set for our employees, a whole new need for new resources to help us through that shift. Then the last piece, another one I'm particularly proud of, is we're now getting involved in what we refer to as middle mile broadband, and it's about delivering high-speed internet access to rural communities. I think most of you know, if you don't have high-speed internet access, you're not even in contention when it comes to the latest and greatest in education, healthcare, any kind of business activity. So we want to enable the build out to some of these areas that on their own wouldn't make economic sense for the frontiers and optimums of the world to provide that internet access. So we're leveraging our assets with that smart grid to run kind of the bulk of that fiber so that those internet service providers can then offer that service to our rural communities. And just particularly proud to be involved in that effort, but that's again another new skill set for our folks to have to learn and new resources that are required.
Great. Thanks,
So
Sarah.
in education, the shift in the next 5 years, and really very much similar to the other panelists, we would like to see all 55 counties, of course, participating in the Grow Your Own, and that requires a partnership with a local college, and so we're looking to higher ed to come alongside of us in this initiative. But also, I want to quickly add something that's very important and near and dear to our hearts in education. We want to promote and elevate the profession of teaching to the place that it needs to be in our culture. And honestly, we want to see that respect reflected in salary and benefit packages for our teachers and educators. So I think that's something that's really close to all of us here. So that's that.
Great answers, wow. So some themes, data analytics, childcare, pretty interesting. And it's a great, very thoughtful answer and sort of what things look like 5 years from now. So we recognize we have this talent development issue. What are some of the benefits your company offers to attract and retain talent? And Sarah, we'll start with you. Aaron, we'll start with you.
Let Aaron start.
That's
Oh, I'll
Aaron
go
start.
first? Okay.
Aaron starts.
So I brought a cheat sheet for this one because I wanted to get it right, and I promise
Okay.
I'll be short this time.
Outstanding.
So, we recently revised that AEP, our Education Assistance Program. So now we include 100% reimbursement for course registration, tuition, and lab fees, up to $5,200 a year, and that's for associate's and bachelor's degree. And then additionally, we've got an annual stipend of $2,250 for advanced degrees, which would bump that number up to $7,500 a year. And we also provide similar reimbursement for activities associated with professional exams, certifications, licensing programs, and that's up to $5,200 a year. So just that desire for more education and continual professional development, you know, it's one thing to get them in the door, it's another to continue to skill them up and keep them. We wanted to sweeten the pot a bit, so that's new for us, and we're pretty excited about that.
That's great, thanks, Aaron. Abby?
So I'll start off first on the academic medical side and, you know, supporting our partners at Marshall Health School of Medicine. The state does about $14 million in support to the School of Medicine every year out of their budget. And then for us, from the hospital side, we actually provide over $55 million to the School of Medicine from the hospitals to support, you know, graduate medical education. It's very important. You know, we have the research side of it, but also we're able to do innovative things. We're able to keep a lot of our graduates within the system as well. So that's key for us. But on recruitment side from the hospital, you know, we are doing our child care center, that's key. But we've been able to do a diversity and inclusion coordinator as well. We also have an employee retention program through our employee assistance program. So we have counseling. We actually have lounges now throughout the hospital for staff. You know, COVID was very tiresome, so now we have, you know, massage lounges and things like that for staff. We also have tuition assistance for staff currently, but I mean, I actually benefited for myself to do my master's program. But we also are doing an LPN to RN bridge program. We actually have kind of our own apprenticeship type program, I like to say, that is PCA and for those patient care assistants that, you know, you can start out at Cabell or St. Mary's in housekeeping, you know, or even food service and become, you know, a PCA, an LPN, and then an RN. You know, our goal is a career ladder, and that's what we have throughout the system. We also just started this year Mountain Health Leadership Institute, so we have about 60 up-and-coming leaders that kind of go through this. It's kind of based off of what we do with the Leadership West Virginia, and so that's something that we've started, and we just had our first graduates for that. And then we also have like a sterile surgical tech program that we started that's an apprenticeship internally as well. So there's just so many different things that we've been doing internally, but then we also have one of the only owned hospital nursing schools. And so St. Mary's School of Nursing, we went from having 60 students per semester to now 90. We're able to graduate every semester. It's a 2-year program, but we also partner with our partners at Marshall. We're working with MCTC on many different programs like Jump Start, which is getting into the high schools. So there's just so many different things. I mean, I could go on and on, but it's just been very exciting to see what we're doing. But, healthcare is probably every employer's number one cost, I would say. And so our goal is to try to keep that cost down. We've been able to work with employers throughout the community to do direct contracting and things like that, but we also have our own employee wellness programs that we do as well. So it's things like that that we're doing to keep, retain. Benefits are huge. I would say that we probably have the best benefits for hospitals in our region. And we have done extensive increases in salaries the last 2 years. I mean, you've got to, with what's going on with inflation and to keep our staff. We've done so much during COVID. And I'll say that, we were one of the lucky few hospitals and health systems that did not have a lot of traveling nurses prior to COVID. And so whenever we had a ton of nurses, hundreds of nurses, retire early, decide to travel, it was those things that really hit us hard because that's not something that we were used to doing. But we've been working really hard to try to, retire our traveling nurses and, bring our own in, but educate the people that we have in our community and also already within the health system. So it's been very exciting.
Fantastic. Dave?
Great. When I think about this question, the things like pay and benefits and retirement, quite honestly, that's just the point of entry, right? If you don't have those, you're not even in the game in this environment. But one of the things, with the one exception, the one thing that's a little bit new that I think COVID brought to us was workforce flexibility. That was a bit of a game changer over these past couple of years. The whole concept of work at home, having more flexibility in your schedules, and when to work, how to work, what time to work. So that was introduced, and quite frankly, it was clear, right, that our workforce wants that. Now, the challenge that we have in manufacturing is it doesn't work, right? If I have 20 positions I have to fill on the line to make it run, and only 19 want to come to work today, that's a problem, right? And so somehow I've got to fill that position. So we haven't solved it yet, but quite frankly, we are working now to try and understand how can we create some better flexibility for team members to, so that they can take care of these things that they need to take care of at home. The days of being able to say, hey, once you come through the gate, you've got to take your personal life and leave it in a bag on the floor and come in and do your job. It doesn't work that way anymore, right? Those days are gone, and so you have to take care of the whole team member, and having that workforce flexibility is something we're still wrestling with. Now, beyond that, quite frankly, I think one of the differentiators is the culture that you have within your company and your location. And that's one of the things, quite frankly, that why I've been with Toyota for 20 years is when I reflect on our core values, and one of those being respect for people. Now, I can spend a lot of time and talk about all the different ways we try to demonstrate respect for people, but one of those is related to that career development and career growth that we want to provide every single member. I don't care what level you join the company at. We want people to find careers at Toyota and at our location. Now, within Toyota, we talk about 3 different things. It's education, experience, and exposure. So career development depends on those 3 things. And so we work really hard to make sure that our folks get those 3 things throughout their careers. And we've got wonderful success stories, that I could spend, again, tons of time talking about. But even if I, look at myself. So I started Toyota 20 years ago, and I started as a production group leader, which is a frontline supervisor, right? Now, I've been able to bounce around. I've worked in manufacturing. I've worked in administration. I've done HR, accounting, and finance. I've done planning. I did parts conveyance, right? The diversity, again, all those diverse skills, right? We want people to experience all that. There's growth opportunity within the company, but that's what keeps people. So I want to kind of finish with this last note. In Toyota, we have 14 manufacturing facilities in North America. I'm super proud to say that our plant in West Virginia has the lowest turnover of any of those plants in North America, right? And that's a tribute to the workforce that we have, the culture that we have, and then the kind of partnerships that we develop with people here in the state. So it's important to us.
That's great. Sarah?
Thank you. So, of course, when we look at benefits that we can offer to recruit and retain our staff, the benefits of being in a classroom and working with children the influence, the idea that you're touching the future and influencing young minds, that's what drew me to education. And very often when we talk to new teachers and people who want to come alongside of us in this work, they too want to be part of that work that's really, really meaningful. So, but also we offer packages, insurance, all the things that we've talked about on the panel here. But we want to remove those barriers for our future employees, the barriers of cost, time, and access. And I think that's what we're doing with Grow Your Own.
Fantastic answers, thank you. So let's shift a little bit to growing talent, starting with our youth. What is your company or industry doing to grow your own talent? And so, Abby, let's start with you.
We've been able to partner, of course, with MCTC Mount West within our community to work on a Jumpstart program where it goes into the high schools to let high schoolers be aware of our programs that we have. You can finish within 2 years. You can finish within 4 years. It's whatever is best for that kid. And so we've also done a health sciences where we bring folks down into the St. Mary's School of Nursing and the education center there. So every summer we do that with juniors and seniors, invite parents in. A lot of times parents are unaware that we have a 2-year program. And we also have tuition paid for free. So if you decide to come to St. Mary's School of Nursing, even Marshall, even MCTC, even Ohio, across the, from the river from us, their program, their nursing program, LPN program, Rad Tech, whatever it may be, we are offering that tuition assistance if you sign a 5-year contract with us. So that's been one of our recruitment type of things that we're doing. But, in working with the Cabell County schools, I know I see some white coats here. And so I don't know if you're from the Cabell program. Yes, so I went to Cabell, and so they now have a farm tech program. They now have, a patient care type of program that exposes them, and we work with those programs to get those students exposure into our facilities. And with Marshall School of Medicine, they do a 4-week summer residency program for high schoolers that want to be pre-med. And so they get to come and experience for 4 weeks that residency program. So we're doing many different things like that, but it's also trying to keep our med school students, trying to keep our nursing students here in West Virginia and in our region. And I think that's the one thing that I can say we've done very successfully at St. Mary's is, out of those 90 graduates, we have had over 60 that have taken us up on the tuition assistance, have stayed within our region, either at St. Mary's or Cabell. And we actually have 7 within our Rad Tech program too, and that's just started this year. So it's, going to grow even more. So it's things like that that we've been able to do and been successful with. But it's exciting to get more involved with K through 12. So
That's great. Dave, maybe you could talk about the 4T Academy?
I just might. So, again, I just want to touch on probably 3 different activities that our plant is doing in the community to try and grow our own. The first I want to mention, actually just about 2 weeks ago, we announced a program and a partnership with West Virginia State University. And that program is bringing STEM careers and STEM experience to middle school age kids. So again, we're trying to, students need to have that exposure to understand what kind of careers are available to them. And I'm going to talk about why it's important to start in the middle schools. I'll get to that in just a second. But it's a great program. And honestly, when I think about that program, it's really a win-win-win-win program. Because not only, quite frankly, as a plant, yes, we hope that someday there'll be another pipeline of team members that want to join our company. And it's good for the students, we hope, because they're getting experience and an understanding of possible career paths that they can take. But also the teachers in the middle schools are actually going through, and there's a bit of a human development that's taking place there because now they're getting that experience to be able to teach or understand what these career pathways are. And West Virginia State is using it as part of their education program, and their students are developing these kits that'll be going out and be distributed at the middle schools. So now they're learning how to put the program together, So it's a wonderful partnership in the program that we just got kicked off, and I'm really excited about the future of it. The next one I wanted to touch on is what we call our 4T program. Now, our 4T program is really an internship in the high schools. So it's an opportunity for juniors and seniors who, there is a selection process, but it's really kind of an internship where they get a chance to learn manufacturing skills while finishing their high school degree. So they still finish with their high school degree, but they're learning hands-on experience and skills that they're going to need in a career field, whether that's at our plant in West Virginia or somewhere else. But they're still going to have a good career ahead of them through this program. We've started with Kanawha County Schools. They were so eager to partner with us, and it's open to all students within Kanawha County Schools. And it's our intent to continue to grow the program and expand the offerings. But we're just really excited about it. This is our first semester, so we've got our first batch of students that are going through it. And I got to tell you, we had a signing day event, which was one of the most rewarding things I've ever been a part of. And I had a chance to talk to about 2/3, 3/4 of the students that were there that day. And I can't tell you, more than one of them would sit there and say, this is such a big deal. I was so excited when my application was accepted and I was able to get into the program. I really want, they were just, the energy that these students had, that they were just so excited to be able to get into the program, and they had a career path, but it didn't mean they had to go to college, but they knew they had a bright future in front of them. So it's really cool. The third program that I just want to mention is really our AMT, or Advanced Manufacturing Technician program. So it is a post-high school graduate program. It is also kind of a hybrid internship type program where we partner with Bridge Valley Community Technical College. They'll finish with a 2-year associate's degree at the end of the program. But they go to school 2 or 3 days a week, and then they work in the plant 2 or 3 days a week. So they're getting hands-on, real-life production experience. That's really setting them up in the skilled field, which, again, there is a national shortage of people entering into skilled maintenance positions. Quite frankly, they're set. They are going to be in a position to have a really good career in front of them. And the last thing I'll share about that is, in the beginning, it was a supplemental program, meaning we were still primarily trying to hire from external sources, and then we supplemented with our AMT program. Quite frankly, that role is reversed. Our AMT program has become our primary pathway into our skilled maintenance positions. And we're at a point now, we've been doing it 8 or 9 years, I think. And we're to a point now where we've had people go through the 2-year program, get hired on as a team member. They've worked through the team member ranks. Now they became team leaders. They've worked through team leaders. Now they're group leaders. These AMT members, they're just killing it. And they're growing within the company, and they're really going to be the future leaders. And so they've just grown up within the company, and you can't beat that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dave. Sarah?
We're one of 2 states in the nation who has mandated a full-year residency model in our teacher prep program. So not only are our future teachers spending a full year alongside of an experienced teacher during this residency model, they're also being paid as a senior in college, so that's really significant. But the other work that we're doing is something called simulated workplace experience, and that's where our students are doing things that simulate the workplace. They're taking on the roles, and it's been a really powerful program.
Fantastic, thank you. Aaron, bring us home.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of different areas where we've explored kind of growing that talent. I'll start with very similarly some partnerships with some nearby technical colleges. And really what we do is we partner with them to help them design their curriculum. And we create a pathway for those students to immediately transition into our company. Those are typically craft, again, like our line worker program, oriented positions. But as many have indicated, that's usually too late. So we really, really are putting an emphasis on those K through 12 programs and exposures. We do an event called Touch a Truck Day. And actually, we just did this over at Pinch Elementary a month or two ago, where you bring in one of the AEP trucks. It's incredible for our employees because they're very proud of their equipment and what they do, so they get jazzed up to bring in kind of the big toy onto the playground there, and give the students and elementary kids an opportunity to ask questions and learn a little bit more about the Touch Truck event. Another one we're incredibly excited about is our partnership with the Education Alliance through the West Virginia Ready internship program. We're actually so much of a fan of that. We recently did a AEP Foundation grant last year of $250,000 to continue to allow that program to grow and develop. And what that does is it really creates these work-based learning activities and curriculums with typically high school seniors. Couple programs or projects that come to mind. Herbert Hoover, which is a local high school here, they're in the process of building a new high school. So we had a group from Herbert Hoover work with some of our engineers and technicians, and they had that opportunity to design the power feed for their high school. So they learned about load calculations, cable routing, structures, cost. They got to estimate the cost and figure out the best path. I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I ever did anything that was that exciting and meaningful when I was in high school there, to say I put my stamp on this school, which is pretty phenomenal to me. And it varies. So we did a project with Sissonville similarly, and they learned how to navigate publicly available information on EV charging infrastructure. And they had an opportunity to look at the state, look where there were deficiencies in EV chargers, and say, if we recommended installing a new public EV charger, here's where we would put it. Here's how much it would cost. Here's the type of charger we want to put in place. So just some really exciting programs that we think spark some interest. And it's a great partnership with us and the Education Alliance, and really getting to know those teachers as well.
Fantastic. So we're running a little late on time, but there's really one more question that we've really got to talk about, and that's not just growing our talent, but I'd like to focus on growing the collaboration between business and education. And so, Dr. Stankus has shared that we need more teachers. So to Aaron, David, Abby, what is the one thing you think the business community can do to help elevate the teaching profession and grow our own teachers? And Dr. Stankus, you've heard the needs of manufacturing, healthcare, and energy. What is the one thing education can do to help business grow their own in these fields? So Dave, you want to lead us off?
Yeah, I'll try to be short. I know I'm a little bit long-winded. They were saying, I wonder if we'll have time for, questions from the group. Abby and I were like, we got a lot to say.
No time for questions.
So anyways, I got to be short. I think the key is find programs where you can partner with someone that, like I mentioned in the West Virginia State example, where there are multiple benefits that come from that program that will help, I think, in a lot of different ways. Look for those kind of, find a problem, find someone that you can partner with, solve the problem.
Excellent.
I think at the end of the day, it's communication, and it's breaking down silos. And so, with us and our health system and throughout the community, we've been very successful in breaking down silos for, different care. Substance use disorder is one thing that we've been doing, and working actually with employers, with the core program, things like that. When it comes to education, it's the same thing. Going and working with, the Cabell County Board of Education, other boards, to see how can we get more involved in that K through 12 program. And I know our HR folks are here today, and they've been very active in working with the VOTEC program, working with MCTC and other programs within the community to kind of get that Jump Start program where we are exposing kids, because it's really that exposure at the end of the day, getting them in the door sooner, letting them know that, they have an opportunity. Even if you're starting out in food service, you can become a nurse, even a physician. It's really that career ladder that once you're in, and you're part of that family. And so it's really getting into that and breaking down those silos of how can we get more science and health education teachers within the K through 12, and starting really early. I agree with you on middle school. High school, by high school, you're losing them. It's really that middle school. My daughter every day says how she wants to be me when she grows up. And so it's kind of a funny thing for me to hear that. And she's 4 years old, and I'm like, you got to get tough skin being in politics. But it's, it's something that, it's fun to see the exposure that she has. Coming to the hospital, I'm not sure she knows what I do every day. But it's, it's things like that, my exposure all my life was politics. Of course, that's what I do in my job. So it's that exposure, and how can we really, as businesses, get into the K through 12 and the communities to expose more kids.
I'll add to it with a common theme. It really, truly is those partnerships. What we have as a business industry is access to real-world challenges, highest, latest, greatest technology, systems, equipment, and we can provide exposure to students as they're navigating their career choices while they're in school. Also, those partnerships with the teachers, helping them design those curriculums, just being there when they need a resource. Always breaks my heart to hear the story of the teacher that on the way to class has to stop and out of their pocket pay for the materials and equipment they need to run their class. We can help, right? And those partnerships, we can help with that by providing some of that.
Sarah?
So finally, I would just say that I think all of us are realizing the importance of placing emphasis on how students learn, what and where they learn what they need to know for their lives beyond the school. And I always told students when I was an elementary principal, you're going to be in life a lot longer than you'll be in school. We may have you for 13 years in school, but you're going to live a lot longer than that. So we need to go back to that, looking at how we can make and help and partner together to help our students become the best employees and ethical citizens that they can become, so, and really productive citizens, so, and employees.
Wow, fantastic answers. Thank you all. Folks, please join me in thanking this great group of panelists.
Mike, that was fantastic. Panelists, amazing. Thank you so much. I have some good news. First of all, we are going to have our next audience engagement activity now, and we actually have time for you to meet the panelists. So if you're like me, you probably had a burning question that you wanted to ask one of these 5 individuals. So I'm going to ask panelists if you could please take your place in the ballroom.
I was back there.
We have a little map here, so
There we go.
to my right, your left, we're going to have Sarah Stankus and Abby Reel, and then over here we're going to have Aaron and David, and right down front, Mike, if you would please join us. Okay. So what we would like to do now is give you 10 minutes to come up and network. Introduce yourself to these people, ask your burning question, but please do not leave the ballroom because we have a swag bag giveaway that you will not want to miss, and then we will have a break. So let's take 10 minutes to meet the panelists, and at 10:35, we will have our swag bag giveaway. All right. Sounds like you've had some great discussions with Meet the Panelists. We are going to do our swag bag giveaway now. So you must be in the room to win. We've entered everyone's name into our picker wheel, and our first swag bag is going to be from Appalachian Power. So if we could draw our first winner. Barry Christ. Is Barry Christ in the room? Yay, Barry, come on down. All right. Winner number 2 with the Marshall Health. Just stay right. Winner number 2 Debbie Smith, Deborah Smith. Yay, come on down. All right, and winner number 3 from Toyota, swag bag. Helen Southall. Yay, Helen, come on down. All right. Please join me in thanking all of our panelists today for their excellent presentation and for sharing their time. We're going to take a 10-minute break now, and we'll reconvene at 10:45. We are ready to get started now for our keynote. How many educators in the room automatically associate the phrase grow your own with teachers? Okay. And how many business folks in the room, when you think about growing talent, you're not necessarily, before today, you were not really thinking about the teacher pipeline? A few brave souls raise their hand. Okay, awesome. All right, so our keynote is really going to help us dive into this necessity of a robust teacher pipeline and how that really is foundational for all other industries. And we're pleased to have our student, Maddie McNeely, come and introduce our keynote and fireside chat. Please join me in welcoming Maddie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maddie McNeely from Cabell Midland High School, and I'm so happy to introduce today's keynote speaker, David Donaldson. David is the managing partner at Harvard University's National Center for Grow Your Own, a nonprofit which supports states, school districts, and educator preparation providers to launch or expand, launch or expand Grow Your Own programs and registered apprenticeships in teaching. He was the lead author on the approved application by the U.S. Department of Labor to federally recognize the K-12 teacher occupation as eligible for registered apprenticeship. Previously, David served as the Chief of Human Capital in Tennessee's Department of Education. He has been a teacher in Baltimore, a principal in Detroit, and an administrator in New York City. Joining Mr. Donaldson for a fireside chat will be Dr. Carla Warren, who is a Director of Educator Development and Support at the West Virginia Department of Education. Please join me in welcoming David Donaldson.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you, Maddie, so much for the introduction. I appreciate it. And I'd also like to say thank you to Dr. Amelia Kortz and Sally Barton, the Education Alliance, for having me here today. And I also recognize that I am the speaker before lunch, and I'm not from here, so I'm really hoping for some hospitality that I hear so much about here in West Virginia. I was greeted last night upon my entrance with everybody in this hotel waiting for me to arrive, along with 3 fire engines. So that was such an awesome welcome parade you all put on. I didn't know that was part of the agreement, but it was amazing. And so also just want to give a shout out to 2 specific people that you're going to actually be hearing from in just a little bit and later today. Dr. Carla Warren, who you've heard about a lot, she has been an amazing partner that I've gotten to know in this work. And then later today, this afternoon, the policy speaker is Director Russell Dyer, who I had the honor and privilege of working with back in Tennessee. For context, director means superintendent. He is by far not just one of the best superintendents in Tennessee, but one of the best in the country. And I'm so excited for you to hear from him later today as well. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today, I'm the founder and managing partner of the National Center for Grow Your Own, but you heard a little bit about my background as a former teacher and principal, but also led talent in a school district before working in Tennessee. And I bring that up because it will come up throughout this presentation, but just a couple things for those who might not work in education. A couple things. When we say grow your own, Now, I want to be very clear. There's no shared definition of grow your own in the education space. And I say that because I've gotten to know a lot of people across the country. And so they'll tell me about their amazing grow your own program. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. Tell me about it. They're like, yeah, we do a career day for middle schoolers and tell them about consider being teaching. I was like, okay, that's a good start. Good for you. We like to hear that, but we need a yes and approach. So the definition that we're trying to permeate is that grow your own should be a clear, articulated pathway between a school district and an educator preparation provider to have an aspiring teacher be able to become an educator for free, get paid to do so, and have a job waiting for them on the end. If we're going to be investing in our students, our paraprofessionals, our tutors, our subs, our parents, our community members to become teachers, we got to make sure that they are able to finish these programs and that there is jobs waiting for them on the end. Another term that you may have just heard me use is educator preparation provider. That's just fancy speak for a body that offers the certification and licensure for aspiring teacher. 95% of the time you're talking to Institute of Higher Education, yet the reason we say Ed Prep Provider, EPP, is, for example, in Tennessee, we had 2 school districts that were approved to certify teachers. So they could approve if the folk already had a bachelor's degree, they could train them then to be a CTE teacher or science teacher. They're not a degree granting body, but they could provide that option. So just like everybody in Tennessee, we were dealing with educator shortages, but specifically the problems we were trying to address included, number one, we wanted to remove the financial barriers to become a teacher. Second, over 20% of our vacancies throughout the state were in special education or English as a second language. Too often, students of those backgrounds do not have the teachers they need or deserve. We wanted to do something about that. Third, feel free to laugh, but we wanted to eliminate the concept of a first-year teacher. How could we better prepare you to be more than day one ready? Superintendents across the state would say, look, David, they're not coming out prepared like they used to be. I have no problem investing in mentoring and induction, but it's at a whole new level than it ever was before. So how could we better prepare you to be more than day one ready? Fourth, we had significant issues, just like folks all across the country, when it came to our educator diversity. And then 5, a lot of rural districts in Tennessee, where the closest ed prep provider may be well over an hour away. So we had EPP deserts. And during my tenure, there was 42 providers. And now that I don't work in government for the first time in 15 years, I can say not all were the same when it came to quality. So what are we going to do about that? So what we did is we launched a competitive grant, the Grow Your Own grant. This grant was for the educator preparation providers. But one of the requirements of the application is they had to submit a letter of agreement from a district or group of districts to partner with. And we leveraged, still haven't come up with a better way of saying this, but we leveraged the evil version of the golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules. So we said, if you want to apply for this grant, you will first have to have all candidates be able to become a teacher for free and get paid to do so. Number 2, everyone must graduate dual endorsed in either special education or English as a second language. Now, Tennessee is a local control state, so Director Dyer, or Superintendent Dyer, would say, David, we're going to go with an elementary cohort, or we want to do a middle school math cohort. Great, more power to you. But on top of that, you'd have to add special ed or ESL to that. Number 3, Tennessee policy, unlike I heard earlier from the Deputy Sup, which is incredible that it's a 1-year requirement for teacher residencies, if that's what I heard correctly. Tennessee policy was only 15 weeks of student teaching requirement. So we said minimum 2 years of student teaching if you're going to get your bachelor's degree, minimum 1 year if you're going to get your master's degree to be a part of this grant program. Our big bet was that more time in a K-12 classroom under the tutelage of a mentor teacher who is the teacher of record would better prepare you, along with still doing all your college coursework, to take over a classroom of your own one day. I don't know if we have any sports fans in here, and I got a baseball or a basketball reference, but I'll use baseball because I'm a baseball person. This was modeled, this idea came from, if anybody's ever heard of Ichiro Suzuki. I think you might have with Toyota, yep. But Ichiro Suzuki, future Hall of Famer, one of the best baseball players of all time. When he made his debut for the Seattle Mariners, there was a massive controversy. Is it fair for Ichiro Suzuki to be eligible for the Rookie of the Year award when he had played around like 7 years before in the Japanese Professional Baseball League? Well, Ichiro goes on to not only become an all-star, but he wins the MVP for all of Major League Baseball in his rookie year. He obviously, if you're the MVP, you're probably going to win the Rookie of the Year award too. And the one group of people that could care less about this debate was his employer, the Seattle Mariners. They cared that they had the MVP in his first year. So how could we have more teachers be not just rookies of the year, but all-stars and MVPs by getting more time ahead of time through their preparation experience? We also incorporated diversity into the rubric, so all districts had to select candidates that were more diverse than their current teacher workforce. So whether you're Shelby County Schools, where Memphis is, or a district that literally doesn't have one teacher of color, everybody can improve. You can do better. And then finally, very common today, but also very common then, we just strongly encourage ed prep providers to offer their services online. That way a high-performing university like Austin Peay State could serve people 4 to 5 hours away, East Tennessee area. So for us, what this led to was 65 districts partnering with 14 educator preparation providers to have the opportunity for just over 670 folks to be able to get their degree for free while being paid to do so to become a teacher. Our all-in total cost per degree came out to just under $10,000 per degree, meaning we invested during my time $6.5 million for those 670 folks. Some people ask, how is that possible? And I think of the old game show, Name That Tune. Someone saying I can name a song in 4 notes versus someone they could say I can name it in 3. What we did was originally the first grant was $2 million. We did 20 grants of $100K each. The second one ended up being 45 grants of $100K each. Ed preps could submit multiple applications. They could win multiple grants. But the best way for a visual dynamic, because as you can tell, I am not a graphic design person with my slides at all. But what you would see is this. We'd say for $100,000, you tell us, how many teachers can you produce? And so, I mean, I had, and again, since I don't work in government, and it feels so good to say this now, at Vanderbilt University saying, David, how dare you? You know, we're number 1, not in Tennessee, in the nation, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to do this. But I kept telling myself, another baseball reference, sorry, but Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. That argument doesn't work so well with my former boss, the commissioner, when I was like, no, just trust me, Penny, just trust me, this is gonna work. But I was crying myself to sleep at night, hoping to God one EPP would apply. But sure enough, the way to think about it is, we talk all the time about teacher vacancies. We gotta also recognize that ed prep providers, their enrollment's been down over the last 10 years. So the visual example that I referenced a long time ago that just now bringing back up is this. Imagine I'm a college professor and you're the students. My salary is the same regardless of how many people are in this room. And yet, the university is getting no tuition money right now for that seat, that seat, that seat, those seats over there, these 2 empty ones here. So it's free money for the ed prep provider because you're talking about folks that weren't going to come to the university in the first place. You're talking about folks, and this is part of the influence of this. My father is a West Point alum. My father, due to his commitment to public service via the military, was able to go to school for free. But my mom was my school cafeteria worker growing up. She also taught Sunday school and vacation Bible school for over 2 decades. My mom does not have a college degree, and I want to be very clear, I will not stand for any of this deprofessionalization of the teaching profession when anybody's talking about lowering standards. But at the same time, my mom was a teacher. There's nobody who can tell me otherwise. And as you all can tell, I'm not that big of a person, so I'm not a fighter, but I will try to fight if somebody says something about my mom, which means like a kick to the shins and I'd run away. And so my mom deserved the opportunity to have those financial barriers removed. Teaching is a public service. So with that said, having those seats be filled, what we noticed was between the first round grant and the second round grant, I was getting calls from university presidents and provosts saying, you know, young man, how come my university wasn't selected for this program? And when my response was, well, you know, you can't be selected if you didn't apply. That created some really awkward phone calls or meetings between these university administration and the deans of the schools of ed. So moving forward, we ended up seeing with these programs a dramatic increase in the diversity of the candidates that were now going to become teachers, as well as they were now going to higher performing ed prep providers. And then specifically, I also just want to say, you know, anytime you're going to do something for aspiring teachers, what are you doing for your current teachers as well? I want to give credit where credit is due. There's a lot of good work happening right now at the federal level around public loan service forgiveness. That wasn't necessarily the case at our time. But so what we did was current teachers could add, we had over 5,000 educators had the ability to add free additional endorsements within special ed, science, and secondary math. Many districts then pay extra for those additional endorsements, specifically in those critical shortage areas. We also had Grow Your Own for school leaders, so free master's degrees in school leadership. Oftentimes, we know we don't pay teachers enough, period, end stop. That's not up for debate. That just is, and I hope all states do a better job of paying teachers. But with that said, what would happen is somebody like Superintendent Dyer would say, look, David, I got a principal opening. I got 15 people knocking down my door. They're all waving their admin certificate in hand, and I don't necessarily want any of them. Who I want is the third grade teacher who's been here 12 years, has the respect of her peers, she's the grade level chair, but simply because she's still paying off 40 grand of student loan debt from becoming a teacher, she's not willing to take out more debt to get her master's degree in school leadership. So we remove that barrier. Then, where this program started originally in a single district in Tennessee, Clarksville Montgomery Schools in Austin Peay State, they approached me and said, you know, David, with this increase in clinical internship or student teaching experience, that 2-year or 1 year for the master's degree, sounds like a lot like a registered apprenticeship. And it was at that point in my career, I asked the most profound question I've ever asked. What's a registered apprenticeship? Had never heard of it at all. Understood the concept of an apprentice, but I did not know what a registered apprenticeship with the U.S. Department of Labor meant. But as you can tell, I'm a bit of a nerd, and you're about to find out I'm very persistent. So I led the application process to the U.S. Department of Labor to get the occupation of a K-12 teacher recognized and made eligible for registered apprenticeship. It only took us 2 presidential administrations, 4 applications, so third time wasn't the charm. And if we talk about how this country is divided at times, getting denied by both the Trump and Biden administration is really good for one's ego. Yeah. But additionally, we ended up getting 15 national letters of support. This occupation was just approved around Thanksgiving of last year. Fun fact for nerds like myself, just so I think it was in September, might have been August, marked the 85th anniversary of the National Apprenticeship Act, thus creating registered apprenticeships. And yet, the teacher occupation's been around for less than a year. So we got a lot of catching up to do. The reason why this is such a big deal, that it got approved by the U.S. Department of Labor, is that now any state is able to take advantage of this. And you want to know the first state to take advantage of it after we did in Tennessee? Right there, Dr. Carla Warren in West Virginia. And yes. and you're going to hear about that, so I'm not going to take away any of her thunder, but you all are incredibly blessed to have her leadership here, and just want to give credit where credit is due there. So main benefits, and as I speed things up, at the end of the day, it's an earn and learn model. It's never made sense to me, why do I pay tuition to a university to provide free labor to a school district, and we call that student teaching? That eliminates so many people being able, career changers specifically, being able to quit their job. They might be willing to pay tuition to go back to school, but they're not able then to take the hit of no income. Now you must be paid during that student teaching experience. So when we said minimum 2 years, you're getting paid 2 years. If you're a school district person, you're wondering how is that possible? What we did was the district employs the individual as a paraprofessional or instructional aide during that time. We talk a lot about teacher vacancies. We got tons of support staff vacancies in our schools. So we're able to leverage those positions because they're already in classrooms. Quality control. Now, in the case of West Virginia, or the case of Tennessee, or any state, you can leverage quality control with the programs you approve. There's a role known as the sponsor in a registered apprenticeship. And so Tennessee Department of Ed is the sponsor. I believe West Virginia Department of Ed serves as the sponsor. So we're able to now codify those things from the grant if we wanted to say, we're not going to approve any programs for registered apprenticeship. We're not going to submit any for registered apprenticeship unless no out-of-pocket costs, dual endorsement, whatever it may be. I've seen some states, they're pursuing science of reading must be incorporated in their programs or focus on high-quality instructional materials. And then this also opens up access to potential labor funding. So the money that is used, I'm from Detroit suburbs originally. In 2008, when everything went to hell in a handbasket with Ford, Chrysler, and GM, my brother-in-law got laid off. All that money that was used to retrain people to become plumbers, electricians, culinary arts, IT, can now be accessed to train people to become teachers. Today, with the National Center of Grow Your Own, we're actively working with 8 states on Grow Your Own's or registered apprenticeship. We should be at 10, at a minimum of 10 states as of December 1st. We've actually been around less than a year, so that shows you how much it's growing so quickly. We also have launched the National Registered Apprenticeship and Teaching Network, which I'm gonna reference again in just a second. And then the big announcement on August 31st at the White House was our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, along with Secretary Walsh from Labor and Secretary Cardona from Education, announced this winter there will be a $100 million grant for registered apprenticeships, and it will prioritize the teacher occupation, which is really, really exciting. As I put up this last slide, just our contact information. Now, one of the things that we're gonna segue into is this Fireside Chat, so you get to hear about the incredible work that I've gotten to know of my dear colleague, Dr. Carla Warren. So Dr. Warren, would you join me on stage, please?
You ready?
Good. Good. So, Dr. Warren, first thing I wanted to ask you was, it's not really a question, it's just bragging on you. So our first session of this national network, it was with 7 states. And every session, we're gonna have one state share out about their work. We're gonna have guest speakers from Department of Ed, Department of Labor, but we're always gonna have one state start, kind of like a show and tell. But the key is that other states can learn about what amazing work's already happening. Who do you think that first speaker was? Dr. Warren. So Dr. Warren, do you mind sharing about your work? Well, actually, no, get that applause again. Sorry, I cut that
I'll
off.
take it. You know, my background, I spent 20 years as a first grade teacher, so this is really affirming because I haven't had all that affirmation from 6-year-olds for a long time, so thank you. So great to have David here in West Virginia. We welcome him, and I appreciated the fire trucks coming out to welcome him last night. But he has been a great thought partner for this work as we have designed and implemented the pilot of the Grow Your Own pathway in West Virginia. We did a lot of research looking at what was happening across the country. And the exciting thing about a Grow Your Own pathway is it can be designed to meet the needs of your population. So we looked at West Virginia's demographics. We looked at our educator preparation providers. We had stakeholder meetings. And we decided that we wanted to launch a pathway that would support high school students to enter the teaching profession. If you study any of Ruby Payne's work, if you think about the rural, first generation, low SES population that we work with many times, we know that we wanted to take students from the community and prepare them for the community. I tell the story as an undergraduate at Marshall University. There was a group of women who came from Logan County. They had an apartment on campus, and they drove up, left their families, their kids and their husbands, and spent the week in Huntington getting their elementary education degrees. On the weekends, they went home to their families. Those ladies graduated, and they went home to Logan County to teach. And I think that's a pretty common occurrence for our students in West Virginia. They want to stay here if the opportunities are available. So we launched a Grow Your Own Pathway, Grow Your Own West Virginia Pathway to Teaching in 31 counties. You can see on this slide this fall with partnerships with 16 of our institutions of higher education. Some of those are 4-year, some of those are 2-year. They look very different depending on what part of the state you're in, because we ask our institutions and our counties to partner to develop a pathway that would meet the needs of their students. So the Grow Your Own Pathway in West Virginia, which we have 250 students participating in this pilot year. It just launched in August. So we are working and navigating all of the obstacles in this pilot year. But of those 31 counties, 7 of those counties have agreed to pilot the West Virginia apprenticeship model. Thanks to the ground that David broke in Tennessee, we followed suit and were registered as an apprenticeship here in May, which was very exciting because that opens up workforce dollars, that opens up funding streams, that opens up wraparound services that we can access for our high school students. So to give you just a very broad overview of the pathway, what this pathway does is allows a high school student as a junior or senior to enter the pathway and complete 24 to 30 hours of college credit cost-free to that student. So they come out of high school with 1 year towards a bachelor's degree in education. Our 16 institutions signed a statewide agreement that would guarantee transferability. So if I go to West Liberty, I'm a student at Wheeling Park, I go to West Liberty to get my enrollment in my dual credit for my Grow Your Own Pathway, but then I decide I want to go to Marshall University to get my teaching degree. Marshall University signed an agreement saying we will accept those credits. That was a huge obstacle that we had to overcome, and it took a lot of stakeholder engagement. So shout out to our institutions who were interested in partnering on this pathway. So these students come out with 1 year cost-free. We talk about the return on investment. You think about a student coming out with an engineering degree starting at $80,000 a year. My next door neighbor's daughter just did that. So you think about a teacher coming out of school and they have student debt and they are making $38,000 a year. So we are looking at how can we remove barriers of cost and time for our students. In this pathway, they go to the university, complete their 2 years of content. They come back to their county. Our counties have stepped up and agreed to hire a full-time employee to serve as a cohort supervisor for these students. They come back in the traditional 4th year, which would be their 3rd year out of college or out of high school, and they come back as the teacher of record to do their residency year as the teacher of record. The difference being they have full support from the county, they have full support from the university because they're still enrolled. The difference is those students can start earning a wage, seniority, and benefits as that teacher of record in their clinical year. So again, we're trying to remove the barriers for our rural, first generation, low SES, our Appalachian students to be successful in post-secondary and support West Virginia in filling the areas of vacancies that we have.
That's great. I think sometimes it's interesting, like what you just shared, Dr. Warren. I think sometimes when people make things look easy, it's not like, it has to sink in sometimes that this opportunity for these 250 folks, and that's just the beginning. It's a game changer.
Yes.
These things are game changer. You're talking, this isn't just about teacher. This is economic mobility. This is about getting wages up. This is about increasing future taxpayers, but changing families and lives with this stuff. I mean, Dr. Warren, I'm curious, I mean, I definitely want to hear where do you want to go with this, but I'm also curious, what could you do if you had $1 million versus $5 million? Like, how quickly could this grow? What would your vision be with different amounts of money in increments? How would you approach that?
Like David mentioned, our vision is to provide a cost-free education to our students in West Virginia who are willing to come alongside and teach in West Virginia, and to pay them through the apprenticeship model to do that. So very exciting. When you leave the classroom, and many of you may be in this situation where you don't spend a lot of time in a public education classroom. I spent 20 years as a teacher, and then when I left, I didn't have opportunities to go back. So this spring, the superintendent at the time and the West Virginia State Teacher of the Year, Brian Casto, and I, we traveled to about 20 high schools out of those 31 counties. And we spent time with targeted groups of students who either expressed interest that they wanted to become educators. We know we have a large population of students who want to pursue post-secondary education, but they don't necessarily know what they want to major in. So we pulled those students together. Our superintendents have met with us, and we talked to them about this pathway, this opportunity. The teachers in the room all cheered because they knew what it meant to provide a cost-free education. But then we also spend some time talking with those students about the joy of teaching. And those of you who are educators, you know that all of us can share a story about a time that we impacted the life of a child, or the time that a child impacted our lives. I never wanted to do anything but be an educator. That's who I am. And I think about the opportunities for our students to make a difference in the lives of children and to make a meaningful difference, as Dr. Stankus mentioned when she spoke. But this is not something that Carla Warren did. This takes a village, a large village. Starting with my staff at the department, we worked very diligently to develop a pathway that could be replicated in all 55 counties. And then we reached out to our CTE division. We talked with Clinton Birch. He supported us. He got us connected with workforce and labor, and they have been outstanding partners. The Department of Labor supported us in writing our standards to be registered as an apprenticeship for the K-12 teaching occupation. We partnered with Club Worthington Foundation, Benedum Foundation. We partnered with the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. We've partnered with Workforce West Virginia, the Department of Commerce, really just making those connections and saying, how can you come alongside and partner with us to absolutely support the funding stream so it's sustainable, but how can we support our students with wraparound services? When you start thinking about in West Virginia, we have 65% of our working population holds a high school diploma or less. I'm a first-generation college student, and it's because my parents didn't have opportunities. They had a parent pass away. They had to go to work. So when you think about the opportunities that our students have and the need they have for wraparound services, you know, if someone had said to my mom, fill out a FAFSA, that would have been a challenge. Let's schedule housing. Let's do scheduling. Let's get your scholarship information in place. Fill out your financial aid. So not only those funding streams are important, but how do we provide wraparound services so that our students do well in dual credit coursework or AP coursework? We've partnered with a group called Study.com out of California. They have a social impact division. They've come alongside of us and provided vouchers for all of our Grow Your Own students to support them in passing the licensure exam, which is the praxis in West Virginia. They have a 92% passage rate. They gave us $288,000 worth of vouchers to support these students so they'll be successful. Then the department's going to pay for that voucher administration so they can take their praxis. So looking at all of those pieces, and it requires a partner. We're not looking at this as an education issue. This is an economic development issue, and it requires multiple stakeholders for us to be successful. So we need you, and I'll be standing at the door when we're finished here. So we would love for you to think about your business, your industry, your group, and what can you do to come alongside and be our partner as we look to the future. As David said, we would want to expand this to all 55 counties. We would like all 55 counties participating in a Grow Your Own pathway through their high schools with their partner institutions. And we would like all of our educator preparation programs to be involved in this as well. And then the apprenticeship model will allow us to actually pay our students as they complete their field experiences. So we would like to access the apprenticeship money. We have a grant writer that works with us from the Workforce West Virginia, which was a very generous offer from Commerce. But how can we expand this so we can reach our vision that we would be able to provide a cost-free education for students in West Virginia and pay them to become teachers and fill the vacancies that we have in our classrooms.
That's great. One thing, making a connection to earlier today, hearing from that first panel and building off of your talk on partners just there, is we heard from folks in the automotive industry, healthcare industry, and energy industry. One immediate thought I had, you heard me just present that we leveraged our golden rule to ensure that special ed or ESL piece. But an industry could say, hey, we're automotive industry, we're willing to sponsor Grow Your Own or registered apprenticeship teachers that are going to be future career and technical education teachers.
Sure.
That could be something, or STEM fields. That is another idea for
Well, and that's the beauty of the Grow Your Own model. You can create it to meet the specific needs of your population, if it's special education or if it's STEM fields, whatever the case may be. We're actually looking, Tennessee started with looking at the parapro to teacher pipeline. So in West Virginia, we started looking at our grow from within our high school pipeline, but we're currently in conversations with universities to look at, we have a pool of paraprofessionals in our schools who already hold a bachelor's degree, a large pool. So we are working with our universities to determine how can we support those students with those flexibilities, whether it be rolling enrollment, whether it be night classes, virtual, asynchronous classes, where they could work during the day and complete that coursework at night. And again, providing those wraparound services, which may be transportation, which may be childcare, which may be support filling out financial aid information. So providing the tuition again. How can we support that pool of teachers who are already invested in our schools? They love their students. They love what they're doing. For example, our special education aide in Upshur County is our newly named 2023 Service Personnel of the Year. She'll take over on January 1st. And the day she was named the Service Personnel of the Year, she came to me and said, I want to be a teacher. Help me figure out how to become a teacher. So we have a heart for looking at the product we already have, looking at what we already have in our state. People want to stay. People who are raised here many times want to stay in the state. We have to provide a pathway to make that possible for them.
One thing, harping back again on Director Dyer and I were chatting briefly earlier after listening again to that first panel, and also just Dr. Kortz. The power in this room, we're like, what is like this in Tennessee? We don't, and it's awesome the work that the industry partners were talking about on that panel, what they're doing already today. And specifically, you referenced a signing day earlier, and I was thinking back and combining to what you said. My final day on the job in Tennessee, I drove 45 minutes away to Austin Peay State to see a signing day, and they had students who were just recently graduated high school seniors about to enter the program, but you also had that support staff that were also entering the program. So it was a really unique environment to see a signing day where in some cases it's an 18-year-old signing with their parents and siblings behind them. And then another case where it's somebody that's in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s with their kids standing alongside them. So when you talk about economic development and workforce development, and trust me, there's tears in the room. It's just so great to see the pride that folks have. And speaking of pride that West Virginian folks should have, just yesterday, this happened to me. I was dealing with one of our states we're working with, and we're talking about the Grow Your Own grant that they're going to release, and I can't name the state because it's not public yet, but you'll be the first one to know when I'm able to hit the forward button. Their Grow Your Own grant coming out. The opening language will say, based on the work in Tennessee and in West Virginia, we want to model our program after. And that's incredibly exciting. And so the attention that is happening today in this state is happening across the country. But recently, you had an amazing opportunity for a national feature with Soledad O'Brien. Do you mind sharing that?
If you haven't looked this up, you can check it out on YouTube. But Soledad O'Brien's national news show, Matter of Fact, traveled to McDowell County a few weeks ago, and they stopped by the department, and we had a chat. And really, it's a beautiful commercial for the Grow Your Own Pathway in West Virginia. They talked to a young lady named Lakin from Mount View High School, and she said, why would anybody want to walk away from this beautiful place and say, forget about it, we're not going to do anything to fix it? And one of the questions that the correspondent asked me was, what are you going to do if this doesn't work? And I said, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. It has to work. Not necessarily this pathway, but we have to continue trying to solve this concern because our students are in our classrooms every day. We have wonderful teachers. When I hear teachers get negative press, it's so upsetting to me because go into the schools and see what our teachers are doing. Our teachers are wonderful. Our students are wonderful. And this young lady said, I can't walk away. I don't want to walk away from my home. I want to be part of the solution. And that was very touching. So if you get a chance, make sure you watch that. It's about a 4-minute clip, and you can Google it on YouTube. Matter of Fact with Soledad O'Brien. But that young lady's exactly right. Particularly those of us who have a heart for teaching, have a heart for our state, we're not going to walk away. We sense the urgency to this crisis, and we know that one of the ways that we can solve this crisis is not only with compensation and pay, which will always be a top concern, but by strengthening the pipeline and putting those supports in place for our students so that they can come out of school debt-free. And David mentioned the signing ceremony. We've recommended to our counties, and we're working on a toolkit, how can we support those signing events? How can we support those service agreements? So a county superintendent can say, I'm investing in you, and I would like you to come back and give me 4 or 5 years. Very similar to a medical model or a residency model. And I believe Dr. Stankins mentioned West Virginia is one of only 2 states in the country that requires an undergraduate mandated residency. So our students spend an entire year in their classroom with a co-teacher, co-planning, co-reflecting, co-teaching before they graduate with their bachelor's degree in education. And what we're hearing, this will be fully implemented in the fall of 2024, but what we're hearing from our early implementers is that these students become part of the culture, they're embedded in that school, they're embedded in that county, and many, many times they get hired and they stay in that school and they stay in that county. So that's already a step towards making sure that these students are successful in the county once they graduate.
Yeah, thinking of what you just shared there, I remember some stories we had, and I get they're anecdotal examples, but we had folks in a lot of our rural districts say, the reason I took the job in the suburbs and not in my hometown was the difference of $1,200 in salary. And I'm in a position today in my life that I'm very privileged to know I haven't had to make a decision based on $1,200 in salary, but because they are graduating with the student loan debt that they were, $1,200 makes a significant difference. I mean, my first year of teaching, I was at $44,000, and
16, my first year of teaching. I'm showing you my age.
And what's interesting, though, is that was, for me, that was 2008 in Baltimore City. And Dr. Dyer, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think starting pay in Tennessee and is 36 or 38,000.
Yeah, 38 here.
Depending on where you are. Yeah, we'll definitely be higher in Nashville and Memphis and things like that. But point being, if we can, again, I'm it's so nice and freeing to be out of government, to be like, we need to pay teachers more.
But
and
I'm not, so.
no,
So
I know.
what's your words?
I know, my words, I own it. I didn't ask you that question intentionally. But point being though, what is in our locus of control?
Right.
And that's how I view, if everybody plays their part, and my part was, there's a way to ensure people graduate debt-free here, so that they don't have to make that decision based on $1,200. They can teach where their heart wants to teach.
Well, and I can say that we've had a commitment from Workforce West Virginia to fund the Grow Your Own Pathway, so thank you, Workforce West Virginia. We don't know the amount yet, so you'll probably see a press release as soon as we have that. But Workforce has come alongside us to support us because they recognize that this is an economic development driver. And one thing I wanted to mention too, David talking about supporting teachers that are already in the classroom. West Virginia has a teacher leader framework that was instituted out of House Bill 4804 in 2020. And this House bill allowed the department to support the design and implementation of a teacher leader framework at the county level. So our counties can utilize their Step 7 money to support specific roles and responsibilities, such as a cooperating teacher for a student resident, or a mentor, or someone who is a cohort supervisor. One of the roles that most of our counties use is that of a national board certified teacher. In West Virginia, we have $3,500 stipend for every teacher that's national board certified for the life, annually for the life of that certification. Most of our counties add an additional stipend to that. So that makes our counties competitive if you do have to determine if I'm going to teach here or go to the next county. And I'm proud to tell you that West Virginia ranks 13th in the nation for the percentage per capita of national board certified teachers. So that's a wonderful testament to our teachers. But that's one way to build teacher leadership. That's one way to give them roles and responsibilities so that our teachers have autonomy and they have a voice in the leadership of their school. I share many times I was 30 years old, I had a master's plus 45, and I was national board certified, and I did not want to leave the classroom, but there were no options for me to continue to grow professionally. I had nowhere to go, and sadly, I had no desire to be a principal. So I knew, how was I going to grow professionally? So this leadership framework provides some of those opportunities because strengthening the pipeline is one solution, but supporting our teachers who are already in the field is a second very important solution.
Absolutely. We've talked about this before, that the best recruitment strategy is by having a better retention strategy, right? And so you hear about this leadership framework that develops the folks that already exist. We also offered opportunities in Tennessee for folks to physically advance via licensure and additional endorsements as well. I mean, we need both of these types of approaches. Another thing just want to bring up is the power of the state from an economies of scale perspective. I've mentioned before that the program in Tennessee started with a single district, Clarksville, Montgomery, and Austin Peay State. But in order for this to scale across the state at the time, the state had to step in and leverage its bargaining power. There is no, I don't know if a district would have been able to get costs down at the rate that we were able to in Tennessee. I don't know if Dr. Warren wasn't here in West Virginia, there's no way you'd be in 30-plus counties, right?
Counties.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so there are certain things to be thinking about there with the state influencing and leveraging its size and scope, and also the bully pulpit. You better believe, and poor Director Dyer's email inbox probably got flooded with a few press releases and announcements from, Governor Lee and my former boss, the commissioner, announcing these things. That's some ways also that I think community and business leaders and legislators can play support. I remember when I had legislators calling me and saying, how do I get this program there in my district? And that's when you knew it was spreading.
Well, you mentioned earlier about getting phone calls, and I actually have had phone calls from board members, local board members, from legislators, and from parents saying, I want my child to participate in this. Why aren't you in my county? And my response is, you need to call your county superintendent. We would love to be in your county, so please invite us in. And really, just one other point, thinking about the partnerships with our institutions. We are looking for institutions that can be flexible, that can, the student of today looks very different from the student when I was in college, or maybe when David was in college. So how can we create an environment that's going to support us in removing those barriers? And that we found that some of our institutions stepped back and said, we're not prepared to move forward with this. We've had several institutions that stepped up and said, we want to innovate with you, we want to make this happen, how can we be partners? And those are the partners that we're searching for.
That's great. That's great. One thing too, as state partners play a role, this federal opportunity, we're seeing a lot of the bully pulpit being used at the federal level as well. I tell a story that from that August 31st situation, that event, we had 3 states sign up with us that week alone, just because it's this $100 million grant coming out. People want to know about that. Dr. Warren, I know this grant will be for new or existing opportunities. My thought is West Virginia is going to hopefully have a leg up because you're one of the existing, and not many can say that right now.
We submitted an American Building Apprenticeship grant back in the spring. There was about $113 million, I believe, dropped from the Department of Labor, and we were not funded. And in the response and the feedback from that grant, they said that we had not demonstrated success with a teacher apprenticeship. So we got a chuckle, Dave and I got a chuckle out of that because, we've been in apprenticeship for 1 month after we had submitted that, and it's only been around for less than a year. So we're hoping in this next round that we will resubmit with that ABA grant with our support from the Workforce West Virginia people who have been great in supporting us in that grant writing. So we're hoping that we will be able, our vision, and I think it's doable. Maybe I'm pie in the sky, but we can do this. We can support students cost-free. Come and teach in West Virginia, and we will pay you to do so through a registered apprenticeship. So this is very exciting work. I'm excited to see where this rolls out in the future. My staff and I think about this 24 hours a day, and how can we remove those barriers to see our students succeed in West Virginia. Because as I told the correspondent from Soledad O'Brien, I told her, she said, what else do you want me to say on this package? And I said, please share that West Virginia loves their children as much as any other parent in any other state in this country. Do we have challenges in this state? Absolutely. But we love our children, and there's no parent in this state that doesn't want to see their child be successful and pursue their dreams. So I wanted her to make sure that she did. She portrayed us in a very positive light. I even heard from the McDowell County student, and she said, thank you for portraying us in a way that shows we have hope and that we are a place that people want to come and stay.
I think as we wrap things up, the National Center for Grow Your Own, we're very Don Quixote-esque. We're chasing windmills, dreaming impossible dreams, and that dream is creating a world where an aspiring educator can become a teacher for free and get paid to do so. And you heard me say earlier about it's never made sense that you pay tuition to a university to provide free labor to a school district via the student teaching process. But the reason I bring this back up is in any scenario, in any type of way we've done things, it's been created by either a man or a woman. Therefore, a single man or a single woman can change things, can do things different. And here in West Virginia, and trust me, Dr. Warren's being humble. I know she definitely has partners, and there's a lot of great folks. What is it, with victory, like there's 1,000 people that take credit, lose in defeat, there's one. But imagine that if in what we've done in less than a year, Dr. Warren's done in even less time than that. And what she's been able to do to date, imagine if there's additional the resources, funding, partners, politics, policy, all the things combined.
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit, and we can change the game, not just in West Virginia, not just in Tennessee, but this entire country, to ensure that we one day can live in a society where every child has not only the teacher they need, deserve. With that closing word, Dr. Warren?
Just as Dr. Stankus said in her panel discussion, we want to continue to elevate the profession and elevate the level of prestige that perhaps teachers had when we were kids. but to share with the rest of the world what a great profession it is. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure to share the shades.
We do have a few minutes for questions from the audience, so I just want to, we have Dale in the back with the mic, and I wanted to open it up. We do not want to pass by this opportunity to tap into our two excellent speakers today. Any questions in the audience? Over here, Dale. Oh, sorry, one back there, sorry.
So where is the legislature on this? Because they control our school systems by legislative code. So are they planning on investing any money, additional funds that stand alone for this, or?
We actually have plans to take a package to the legislature after these first initial years. In the past 3 years, the legislature has created flexibilities that support us in transitioning an individual that already has a bachelor's degree to get their teaching license. But we do have plans in our discussions with the Department of Labor and the Department of Commerce that we will take a package to the legislature once we have a state model in place and we have data to support that it's successful.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. Over here.
Why wouldn't a district want to participate in this?
I don't think that that a district wouldn't want to participate, but I think this is very new. We took this to our county superintendents in January and presented them with the template, and we asked counties, we laughed because we wanted to start with a pilot of 8 to 10 counties. So I had 31 counties step forward and say, we want to do this, so that our pilot, we laugh and say it's not really a pilot anymore. But I think all of our counties will want to participate, depending on their partnerships that they have with higher education, depending on their proximity to an institution of higher education. Some of our counties already have, there were several, really I would call them grow your own pathways already in place, early college, beyond education, Jump Start. So several of our institutions already had started some programs similar to this. So we just brought them along. As David said, there's power in numbers, so brought them along. So we anticipate that they all will participate as we move forward. Thank you.
If I may just add, at a different level too, like one of the things is, I mean, my God, superintendents work they're working 17 jobs. It's incredible work. I remember visiting Director Dyer during COVID, and it was incredible to see all the additional things on top of their day job. One of the roles of the state, and I think you have a perfect example of Dr. Warren, and I think also what we did in Tennessee, is how can we remove the barriers as much as possible to alleviate district capacity? So at the end of the day, all Director Dyer had to do was say, here's the candidates I want in the program. He had the ed preps coming to him. The superintendents had the ed preps coming to them. At the end of the day, they had to just select the candidates. It removed a lot. We handled the money. We paid all the payments. Like there's a lot of things we get wrong all the time too. But I think that's something we got to recognize. There's so much work districts are doing, but if we can remove the barriers as much as possible, so it makes it easier for them from a user design perspective, it can make a difference. And always be receptive to feedback.
And we've really worked to look at the State Department of Education's role as a technical assistance. Really, yeah. How can we navigate searching out those funding streams? How can we build those partnerships? How can we remove flexibility, provide flexibilities in licensure, support for praxis passage? How can we be a partner to connect institutions of higher education with departments of education or with county institutions? Lots of time we'll have a county call and say, I'm having difficulty making this connection, and we'll say, hey, partner A, B, and C are really doing great work, and they're making a smooth transition. Would you like us to connect you with that institution? So trying to be a technical assistance piece and supporting those counties as they're trying to navigate, because you're exactly right. County superintendents have a lot on their plate.
All right, last question.
I was just curious to know if you could speak a little bit more on why it took so much effort to have student teaching recognized as a registered apprenticeship.
I asked myself that question. You're just bringing up PTSD right now on some of that. I mean, again, the fact that I unified Trump and Biden to deny me was impressive. I once had a joke with Commissioner Schwinn where I was like, they told me this was fast, that they approved it, take that. But I will say there's a lot of due diligence that needs to be involved anytime U.S. Department of Labor is going to pass a new occupation. Because what are the unintended consequences, right? They want to ensure that there's going to be a high quality approach to this, especially if they're, putting their rubber stamp on it. And so that due diligence involved a lot of conversations that they had beyond our 15 national letters of support, but to contact various entities to say, hey, is this the right thing? To be frank with you, one of the original pushbacks is a lot of people assume registered apprenticeship is for blue-collar positions, and thus teaching, how dare you put it in that same category. But the way I saw it is, how could you treat something, I thought we were treating it with the utmost respect by pursuing this pathway, because we were talking about removing the financial barriers. Of course, the degree is required in this space as well, but folks should be paid to become a teacher, just period. That should be the way we do things. And so that just required some finessing here and there, but I will always speak highly of the respect I gain, because remember, I started this process by saying, what's a registered apprenticeship? So if somebody's willing to be patient with me, then I'm very, very glad about, because the thing is, regardless of how much time it took, it's approved now, and we can change generations moving forward. So I take that approach of looking forward, and if that hadn't happened, West Virginia wouldn't be here, and other states wouldn't be here today. And think about the thousands of kids whose lives will be changed because of the U.S. Department of Labor, and now the work of Dr. Warren in the West Virginia Department of Ed. So
I love that as our finishing thought. Thousands and thousands moving forward. This is such an important topic. Please join me in thanking David and Carla for their fabulous presentation. We're getting ready to head into lunch and our student expo, but before we do that, we heard several themes both in our industry panel and in our keynote, and we've tried to highlight a few of those in this short video. So we have one video for you before we break for lunch.
Hi, my name is Bailey Peters. I go to Sherman High School and I'm going to be in 11th grade. My summer internship is with American Water Company in Charleston. I hope to take away from this internship the skills that I will need to apply in the future when I start my nursing career.
Additionally, I personally am always excited to talk about women in trades because there's not enough women in trades. And so I like to show people that women can do it too. And we also are smart and have good ideas relative to industry. And I just want to represent that for younger kids that are considering that. So that's kind of why we wanted to participate.
All right. I hope that sort of got some of your juices flowing as we head into lunch. I want to now ask that our air wall is about to come down, and we're heading into something that we're really, really proud of, and that is our Student Expo. You'll notice that we have some flowers here. You'll see they were actually created by an entrepreneurship class, and you'll learn about that had their own florist. You'll learn about that in the expo, but If we could go back to the slide, we have a picture here of the 6 schools that are highlighted in our Student Expo, and we're going to try to maximize your time. So what I would like to do is ask everyone on this side of the room if you would please go directly to the atrium and go through the lunch line, and we're going to ask this side of the room to go directly to the expo. And then if you look at your clock, about 30 minutes from now, maybe you could switch, wrap up your lunch conversation and head over to the expo, and then we'll have those that are there proceed to the lunch line. So we'll come back here at 12:45. Thank you and enjoy your lunch.